Hello, welcome to my channel. Welcome to my garage. This is Rick's Garage, and this is the second video that we're going to be doing on the Ducati 1199 by Tamia. My first video that I did on this was just a review of the build, the kit, the parts, and so on, why I'm doing it, and how I'm going to be doing it. But just as a quick reminder, there is a YouTube channel out there called Plasmo. He built this motorcycle. What I'm trying to do is trying to challenge myself to see if I can't build it using the same method that he built his and seeing how close I can come. Now, he's a professional modeler, so I don't believe or even think that I'm going to come up with the same quality that he did on his channel. In fact, later on when I show you the engine, you're going to agree that there's no way I'm going to come close to his quality of work. But I'm going to see how close that I can come. And the only thing that I'm not going to do that he did is to install LEDs. He made these lights turn on, and I think he's got a couple lights here in the back, but he made these lights turn on by putting in an LED system. I'm not going to do that. All I'm going to do is just build the base kit and do the modifications that he did using the same type of tools and paints and so on, and see how close I can come. So all that being said, this is again for video number two on step one of the build. And the step one is to do the engine. Let me see if I can zoom in for you here. And this is the engine. This took me a week to do. In fact, I just finished it today. Today is Saturday, and I finished it around about 11 o'clock this morning. And the very last piece that I installed was this piece here. And you'll notice that there is a metal band that goes around that. That was very easy to put on. So I painted this the color that they called for in the build. I think it's Tamiya chrome silver or titanium silver is what this piece is painted for. And that went on. That was the last piece that I did. The most difficult part of this build, believe it or not, was the assembly of this piece here. I think this is a heat sink for the oil or the engine of some sort, because it comprises of a series of metal plates. And as the metal plates are assembled, they were supposed to be this piece right here with a series of plates. These metal plates had to be all put on and square to form this. Well, that's problem number one. So I immediately built a jig, and that jig had two 18-gauge wires that stood up from the base of the jig so that these pieces, the wires can go through these holes, and to ensure that they would go in straight and true and would then go on top of each other in the position that they needed to be in order to form this perfectly square piece. That worked out perfectly. No problem at all. My only big problem is that these pieces refused to stick. I was using super glue, and I put some super glue on the piece, and I would stack them up individually, and then I put this piece on, and then these two little screw washers on there, and they seemed to work fine. The next morning or afternoon, I come back thinking I'm going to be able to put this piece onto the engine, and when I picked it up, it fell apart. So then I had to sand off all the glue again, repeat my work, glue them all down, waited the next day, and two pieces would be stuck to this firmly, but these pieces here fell off. So then I repeated my work again, and on the third time, they all stayed on except for these two pieces. So it was almost like, going upward of what pieces would fail. Finally, I got them on, and what I did was on my final try was I used a lot of glue on these pieces. Not so much that it would actually seep out of the side or through the hole here, but I put in a whole bunch. I just put on a big dab of glue right here in the center, and then I let the top piece fall on top of that and used its own weight, and then I used my tweezers to push it down a little bit, and then I repeated the process on the last piece. That seemed to work out fine. That made the piece nice and solid. The problem was that on the last attempt where I had to put these pieces in and these pieces in, I couldn't use the jig anymore. I couldn't use the jig because on the last two pieces, because this piece was firmly attached to this piece, and it would obscure in these two holes. So I had to take my best guess. Anyway, all said and done, after everything was all said and done, this is the end result. And you can see that it's not true and square. It doesn't even come close, I don't think, to the quality that you can see on the Plasmo channel. I'll give you a better view here. So it looks more like the Leaning Tower of Pisa if you look at it this way. So if anybody's out there that has done something similar to this type of a build, maybe you actually assembled this piece, if you can let me know how you did it and you got the success of getting this to be a square one-piece unit, please let me know in the comment section. I really would be interested. The other thing that I had to do was that I had to put these little tiny bolts, or what they would probably represent as bolts, into their respective holes on the bottom plate. Now I did that prior to, well, I did it after all the plates finally stuck together without any problem. They weren't falling off, they were pretty well firm. Then I decided to put these pins into the respective holes, because you can see as this is on the engine, okay, it'd be almost impossible to get those pins into their respective holes if it's already on the engine. So I did that prior to. Now those pins are really, really small. You can see right here, put my thumb next to one of them, and I don't even know if the camera can see that, but those things are, they're just tiny. They're just as tiny as they can be. And if you put 2 or 3 of these end to end, probably wouldn't even be bigger than an ant. The ant would still probably be the largest thing on the table next to these pieces here. That's how small these things are. So what I did was to, rather than use my tweezers and risk having those things pinging off all over my work area and never to be found again in the black hole, I used a wax pencil, which is something else that you will see on the Plasmo channel. And he shows how he's using the wax pencil to apply little tiny pieces to the engine. So that's what I did. I applied the wax pencil to the top of the screw, and then I carefully, as best as I could, tried to manipulate that screw into the hole. And if I couldn't really get the end to go into the hole, then I used these tweezers to help guide it through. Once that was in, glued it, wait for that glue to thoroughly dry, and then moved on to the next screw. So for all the screws that are here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws, took me 7 hours, because I wanted to wait and make sure that those screws were fully dried, fully secured before putting them on the engine, because the last thing I wanted to happen would be for this to go in as I'm gluing it in and have these screws pop right out. So I wanted to make sure that they were going to be securely in. And it worked out fine. You can see that it is now thoroughly installed on the engine in the way it should be. And so that part worked out perfectly. And also the paint worked out fine. This is the construction of it to be a nice square unit did not. Other than that, everything else went fine. This piece here, had to take a metal piece and put it on top of the base piece. We had to first remove the Ducati logo and then sand that all down, and then put this piece, which is the Ducati logo plus it says supercharge underneath it, right here. Glued that on, no problem. Took the gray primer, Tamiya gray primer, which is this primer right here, and using a toothpick went around the edges, filled them in, sanded it all down, made it all nice and smooth, sanded it to the contour of the piece, and then sprayed it with Mr. Gold. And I thought that turned out just perfectly. I thought I did a really, really good job on that. For this one piece right here, I give myself maybe an A-, maybe a B+. So between a B+ and an A-, I thought I did a really, really good job on that. Then these pieces here were very simple. these pieces up here. Now this piece right here that you see, this piece right here, this was another difficult piece, because if you look at the instructions, it looks as if this piece, looks as if this piece really goes onto this piece. Because if you're looking at here, here's this, and that's that hole right there, or even if you're looking at it from here too. But this has a screw hole in it, so I disregarded these and focused on here. And then when you're looking at here's your engine area, well, there's the engine right there. So you're thinking that this piece is going to go on here somewhere. And I was struggling. There is no way this piece is going to fit here. So then I looked at the instructions ahead. I even emailed the Plasmo channel to see if he can't help me out. But as soon as I emailed the Plasmo channel, I then saw in step number 2 where this piece actually goes. And that piece actually goes, here. So here's this piece here, and here is the little cap area, and there's the cap. And so this piece is on here just like it is on there. And then you've got your Ducati symbol right here, which is one that we just replaced. Whoa, wait a minute, you can't even see the piece. So you have this piece right here. This is the cap. And there's the cap here. And then you have these pieces, this piece right here with these forms right here, which is this right there. And that fits right in here. You've got your Ducati logo right here, and that's where this piece is here. So I think it's a mistake in the instructions that it's supposed to go where it's supposed to go, or it's not very, very clear. But it's clearly not anywhere near this. It's probably what it's doing, that this is the back end of the piece, and it's saying that it goes in the back. Well, that's not even true. So it's going from this way here, and it's probably saying they're trying to tell you that this piece goes back here, and that just wasn't very clear. So it was good that they had another diagram up here. Let's bring the instructions down, so that it tells you exactly where that piece goes. But that was a real struggle for me. There's no way that piece was going to go there. Other than that, everything just went in fine. Here are the other 2 pieces of the dial-up kit that we installed. These 2 pieces right here go here, and then another 2 pieces right here. Goes right there. And then we also have this piece here, which is also 2 pieces. One is a flat piece in that shape, and then you have this piece, which is more of a detailed piece that goes right on top of here. And that's it. Okay, so that's the whole entire model. Again, put a list of all the paints and where they were used in the descriptions below. But let me know what you think about the final results here of the engine on step 1. The next step that we're going to be doing, though, is going to be on the muffler, and I've already started that. I put these pieces together, and then before I primed it with the Tamia gray primer, I sand down all of the injection marks. I sanded off all of the seam lines, made those all disappear and smoothed those all out. Here's one area here that I missed. After I primed it, well, after you prime anything, actually, you will see mistakes that you've made, or areas that you've missed. And that was an area that I missed there. And then this right here needed a little bit more sanding to disappear, so I resanded that area there. And then I noticed that there was a couple of gaps in the piece. So I put some gray gray putty, and filled in those gaps, and I'm going to have to sand that down a little bit later. But that's this piece here. But what we're really going to need to do is going back to the dial-up kit again. Here we go. And zoom in a little bit more. Okay. You see these right here? Those are metal pieces that are on the dial-up kit. Let's see if I can't get that dial-up kit again. And these 2 metal pieces, these 2 metal pieces right here are these pieces right there. Can you see that? There we go. And those have to be put onto the pipes. and then one end of it has got to be raised, as you can see there, at an angle, so that the springs, and where are the springs? The springs are right here. Put that out. And these are the springs. I can give you an idea of size. There's my tweezers and there's my springs. Now those springs have got to be attached to these endpoints, these brackets. So what I think I'm going to do is, first I'm going to bend these up to the angle that you see here. Then I'm going to securely glue these in with super glue onto the pipe. Wait for that to completely dry. Then paint it, weather it for heat treatment. Once all the heat treatment and the weathering is all complete, I will then start working on assembling of the springs. And that's going to be very, very daunting and nervous, because if these springs ping off these tweezers, I'll never see those springs again. So that's going to be really, really challenging. I don't think I'm going to have too much problem with the screws here that have to go into these bands. The reason is that I've already got the experience back here on how to deal with those. So so this is not really going to be that much of a problem. Putting these bands on is not going to be an issue either. That's going to be very simple to glue just one end, wait for the glue to dry, then complete it by wrapping it around the other end, and then putting the screw right through the opened end here. So that's not going to be an issue. It's getting these springs. Well, actually, there's going to be two problems with the springs. One, to make sure that I put these two parts onto the pipes at the exact right distance apart to accommodate the spring. Because I don't want to stretch the spring out too far, because the further I stretch it, the more chances it's going to ping off my tweezers. So I want to try to figure out the optimum distance between these 2 points, and then apply the springs. And we'll see how that goes. So that will be the next video that will come up on this. That's step number 2. And then step number 2 just has everything going onto the engine here, all the exhaust and everything. So, but this is going to take a very long time, I think, getting those springs onto this part right here. So that's it. That's where I'm at. Again, let me know what you think on how I did on the engine in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please remember to subscribe. Other than that, have a great day and have fun in your workshop. Take care. See you next time.